Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and this is the show we do every day, Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time in the afternoon, without any formal agenda. We don't have any topics laid out. It's just whatever you guys want to talk about. It is Open Mic. Now, I'm going to let you guys know, too, that there were a few questions that we didn't have time to get around to on Open Mic yesterday, and a few questions that we didn't have time to get around to on the John Campea show earlier today. I have recorded a separate video to make sure all those questions got asked. And that video, I've already recorded the video. I just haven't had time to upload it yet. I'll upload it after we're done this particular show here. So don't worry, for all you guys who sent in questions on the John Campea show this morning or on Open Mic yesterday that didn't get asked on the live broadcast, it does get answered in that separate video that will go up a little bit later after this show is done. So with all that out of the way, let's get things started today. And the first question comes to us from The Impossible Something. I like that name. That's cool. Writes, thoughts on Mark Rylance as an actor? I think he's one of the greatest stage actors to come out of Britain, and I would love to see him in more cinema. Well, I've never seen Mark Rylance on stage. I mean, I've never seen him perform on stage live and in person. But obviously, he's an Academy Award winner. He won for Bridge of Spies, directed by Steven Spielberg. He was really good in Dunkirk. And I even liked him as the motion capture dude in the BFG, another Steven Spielberg film. I really liked the BFG. I don't know why that movie didn't get more love. I really thought the BFG was really fun. But anyway, and now we're going to get to see him in another Steven Spielberg film here pretty soon in Ready Player One. But look, I haven't seen Mark Rylance in 25 movies, so I don't have a huge picture. But the small sample size I have of him said he's really good. I really enjoy seeing Mark Rylance and stuff. He's got an Academy Award on his shelf, something that, Ed Harris doesn't have, something that Ralph Fiennes doesn't have, something that Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't have. But no, he is a truly exceptional actor. But again, I don't have the same appreciation for him that you do, having seen him on stage. I've never seen him on stage yet, so maybe someday I'll get lucky enough to do that. All right. Next question comes to us from Adam Griffin, who writes, Ron Clements and John Musker might be the most underappreciated directors. Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, Princess and the Frog, Moana, all Rotten Tomatoes fresh with 5 of 6 at certified fresh. Yeah, I mean, these guys are great. I mean, it is unfortunate that people who just direct animation don't get as much credit for the work that they do. Like, if these guys had put out that many solidly reviewed films live action, they'd be household names. They'd be household names. Unfortunately, when you're talking about animated, they don't get the same credit, which is really unfortunate. And just the fact that they did Moana was fabulous. And of course, they did Aladdin, which is fabulous. It would be very interesting, I gotta say, to see these guys do something that wasn't animated. I'd be completely down to see them try something not animated, to see them take a swing at live action. And see what they do there. That'd be really cool. But if they don't, and they just keep doing animated, as long as they keep making movies like Aladdin and Moana, I'm totally on board and I'm totally happy. All right, next question today comes to us from Darryl Best Wadley, who writes, the way you talk about Canada makes it sound like the most awesome place. I wanted to know if you've ever been on the Maid of the Mist. I did once. Nope. I've with all the time that I've spent in Niagara Falls, and I went to school there. I have a lot of friends there. I go and socialize there. I would go play poker there. I take Anne there. I love Niagara Falls. I have never been on the Maid of the Mist. Never done it. It's funny because I've got a bunch of friends who have done it. But you know what? Even those friends of mine who have done it are not the friends that are local to Southern Ontario. I think most of my Southern Ontario friends have never done Maid of the Mist. I guess when you live there, it's just not something you do. It's more of a tourist thing sort of deal. So I have never been on Maid of the Mist, but I've heard people talk about being on and say it's awesome. You know what? It would be pretty cool to get that kind of a vantage point of the falls. That would probably be really neat to do. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Darryl. All right. Next up is Orange Hand. And Orange Hand writes, Kristen Wiig confirmed for Wonder Woman 2. Why do some people think this is bad? I've seen her do well in non-comedic roles. I think the reason why some people think it's bad, I don't think it's bad. I'm apprehensive about it. I admit I'm a little bit apprehensive about it. Is not that they don't think she can't perform non-comedic roles. A lot of us have seen her do non-comedic roles. She's very talented. I'm a big Kristen Wiig fan. Super talented girl. The thing is, she doesn't come across as a comic book style super athletic supervillain like, say, a Cheetah does. And I think that's where most people's apprehension comes from. It doesn't come from them thinking she's a bad actress. I mean, all film's subjective. I'm sure there are some people who think she's a bad actress. Fine. I think she's a great actress. And talent usually trumps everything else. So I think you just got to understand that most of the nervousness, most of the apprehension coming from that is just not so much her as an actress, but her, can she play Cheetah? Is that a good fit? And I wonder about that. I'm not 100% sure. I'm a huge Kristen Wiig fan, and I'm not even 100% sure. But the one thing I would say to people who do feel a little nervous about it is this. You are trying to fit Kristen Wiig in the Cheetah role that you have in your head. We don't know what this Cheetah will look like in Patty Jenkins' head. Because for all we know, Patty Jenkins has this vision of what Cheetah will be, and Kristen Wiig is the perfect fit for that Cheetah. So look, Patty Jenkins is an extraordinary director. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt on this for now. I am a little bit nervous. Yep, a little bit nervous, fully admit it. But again, Kristen Wiig, super talented. Talent overcomes anything. I mean, she's certainly going to be a more talented actress than that other actress that Patty Jenkins has to work with. And look what Patty Jenkins did with her, right? So I would tell most people, just take a breath. Don't worry about it. Maybe it'll be terrible. Sure, maybe it will. But let's give Patty Jenkins the benefit of the doubt for now. I think she's earned that from us. And let's see what her vision of Cheetah is before we jump to conclusions about whether Kristen Wiig is a good fit for that Cheetah or not. Because we simply don't know what that Cheetah looks like yet. We're just going to have to wait and see. Next up, Dakota Barber writes, in Entertainment Weekly, Brolin said we will see flashback of young Thanos showing his motivation for Infinity War. Always like when a film gets inside the villain's way of thinking. Well, yeah, look, what is always good is when you can better understand the villain takes on a greater role in the film for you. The villain takes on a bigger presence when you understand where the villain's coming from. When the villain's not just a mustache twirling, I'm evil kind of villain. And sometimes those villains are great. Sometimes those villains can work perfectly depending on the story. But when we can get a villain that is more fleshed out, and you don't have to spend a lot of screen time on them, you can even just show us glimpses. Just the right glimpses can tell pages of dialogue worth of stories. Just the right glimpse, if you do it right, can say a lot. So something like that does sound like it'll add to the overall character. And again, if we understand the motivation of the villain, that might make the villain seem all that more threatening, all that more menacing, which can increase the overall enjoyment of the film. So here's hoping he's right, and let's hope that the Russo brothers knock it out of the park again. All right, next question comes to us from Sujith. And Sujith writes, Joker origin story movie to be adapted from The Killing Joke? What are your thoughts? I'll love it if it is a good movie. Reserving judgment. I haven't heard that. Hold a second. Let me just look this up. I don't know if you're just making that up yourself and just theorizing. Okay, so yeah. So what is being said out there is there are some rumors that it could borrow. But remember, it's not being based. What's being said isn't that it's being based on The Killing Joke. It's just saying it's going to borrow some themes. Probably much like Man of Steel. Sorry, not Man of Steel. Probably much like Batman vs. Superman borrowed elements from The Dark Knight Returns. There are certainly elements from The Dark Knight Returns that were borrowed to use in Batman vs. Superman, but that doesn't mean Batman vs. Superman was based on The Dark Knight Returns. There are certainly elements of Injustice Gods Among Us that were used as plot points and like concepts in Batman vs. Superman, but that doesn't mean Batman vs. Superman was based on Injustice Gods Among Us. They may borrow story ideas from The Killing Joke, but that's a far cry. That's very, very different from it being, it's The Killing Joke. The Joker origin story is going to be The Killing Joke. No. It's what's being reported is that they're going to borrow some things from it, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be based on it. So those can be two very, very different things. Let's keep that in mind. Luis Francisco writes, Sam's Days Gone video game is not pushed to 2019. Sam's Days Gone video game is not pushed to 2019. Sam's Days Gone video. I'm sorry, Luis. I don't know what it is you're asking. I'm sorry about that, man. Let's see. Where was I? I was at the Impossible. And we're going way up here. There we go. The Impossible Something writes, watching Slumdog Millionaire right now for the first time in 10 years. Yeah, it's crazy. That's how long it's been. For the first time in 10 years. Forgot how crazy it is, but I love it. What's your favorite Danny Boyle movie? Well, somebody brought that up the other day. We were talking about Danny Boyle. Let me just bring up his filmography here so I've got it in front of me. Off the top of my head, my favorite Danny Boyle film is probably 28 Days Later. I'm sorry, it's probably Slumdog Millionaire. 28 Days Later, something right up there. I really like Steve Jobs. Train Spotting is good. A lot of people love Sunshine. I wasn't as big on Sunshine as a lot of other people were. For me, I wasn't quite there. And then we won't even talk about the beach. I'm probably going to go Slumdog Millionaire. Yeah, I'm going to go Slumdog Millionaire. And you're right, it is a crazy good movie. It's energetic. It's got depth. It's got incredible fun. It exposes us to a whole different things we've never seen in a movie before. I thought Danny Boyle just handled that film so well. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Slumdog. That's what I'm gonna go for. Let's see. Luis writes again. Hey John, what happened to the Poop movie review? It's up. If you look at it, for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, there's a little movie, like a documentary called Let's Talk, or Poop Talk. It's a documentary called Poop Talk, and it's about poop. And it's surprisingly fun. It's surprisingly a funny movie. But anyway, it's up. If you look under my reviews section on my YouTube channel, you'll see it there. So that review is up there. You can find it there. Adam Griffin writes, what happened? Oh, remember when See It, Skip It was a thing? Oh, are you talking about that completely, just bad from the get-go Rotten Tomato show that they did? Oh, God, that was awful. That was just awful. That show was terrible. It was poorly conceived, which is too bad because the people they had on it, it came across terribly. But when I'm watching, I'm like, you know what? I'm getting the impression this dude and this girl actually know what they're talking about, but this format is not conducive to that. It's not making them look like they know what they're talking about. And I got the feeling watching them that they probably did. But it's just the format of it, the way it was just so pre-packaged, the way that it was like scripted, really, the way that it was scripted. It felt like it was trying to be movie talk without being movie talk. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, it was a poorly conceived show, and I didn't know they stopped. Look, I stopped paying attention to it after I watched the first one. I watched the first one kind of curious. Wow, what's Rotten Tomatoes going to do with this? And it was just terrible. And that stunt they pulled about, we're withholding the review or the Rotten Tomato score of this until our See It, Skip It show. That was just awful. And I love Rotten Tomatoes. I'm a huge Rotten Tomatoes supporter. But if you guys remember when that whole stuff was going down, it's like, we're not going to reveal the Rotten Tomatoes score of this movie until you tune in and watch our See It, Skip It show. That turned me off. That's the first time ever I was really turned off by something Rotten Tomatoes did. It wasn't the show that turned me off, is that they were using the goodwill and the good faith of the audience to leverage them, to force them to watch this show, instead of just seeing if the show can make it and survive and hit with the audience on its own or not. And that really turned me off. So yeah, if it is indeed gone, it's probably good that it's gone, if it's gone. Let's see. Murray for us writes, over under 5% Yondu cameo in Mary Poppins Return. Did you guys see that Yondu Mary Poppins poster? I don't even know who put that out. You guys can look that up, but look up on Google Yondu Mary Poppins poster. It's so funny, and it's got the words written in the Mary Poppins font. He's Mary Poppins, y'all. It's really fun and really cool. I'm going to take the under. He's not going to cameo in it. I'll take the 0 on that. But it's a great little fun poster if you can find it. Let's see. Luis writes again, Vin Diesel got cast in Bloodshot. I wanted John David Frank, Green Ranger, since he played him in Bat in the Sun. He's kind of underrated. Why Vin? Jason David Frank is not a good actor. Let's just call it what it is. He's not a good actor. If you find him to be a good actor, more power to you. That's great. I'm not shooting down your opinion. But in my opinion, if you're putting it to me and say, why not? Vin Diesel. Look, Vin Diesel has shown us he's more than just Dom Toretto. Like, he's done a couple of movies, like straight up dramas, that he has shown he can actually be a very good actor. Jason David Frank is not. Don't get me wrong. It would be fun to see to see the Green Ranger pop up in a couple different things. Sure. But I'm not, if I'm a producer of a film, I'm not investing tens or hundreds of millions of dollars and putting that franchise on that dude's shoulders. No, he's just not that good of an actor. So no, so that's why you go with the Vin Diesel instead of something like that. Vin Diesel has the name power. Nobody gives a crap who Jason David Frank is. People do care about Vin Diesel. People go out to see Vin Diesel's movies. And Vin Diesel's done a number of films outside of his Dom Toretto roles that he's shown that he's, like, what's that one he was in? Find Me Guilty? I think that's the name of this one movie he's in called Find Me Guilty. He's incredible in it. He's really good. So that's why you take a Vin Diesel over somebody like a Jason David Frank for sure. Nobody would have cared if you cast Jason David Frank. Nathan Oswald, and again, I don't mean that as disrespect to him at all. Like, I got a kick out of seeing him cameo in Power Rangers. I think that's cool. I think it's so cool that the guy is an actual real mixed martial artist. I think there's a lot of really cool things about the dude, but just being honest, just evaluating I see, he's not a motion capture big feature film level talent that you put in as an actor. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Nathan Oswald writes, Donald Sutherland doesn't have an Oscar. True, which is kind of crazy especially when you look at the career that guy's had. Such a decorated career, such an amazing career. You're right, he doesn't, but I still think Ray Fiennes, and Donald Sutherland's a good Canadian kid, but I still think like guys like Ray Fiennes. I still think guys like Ed Harris. I still think guys like Jake Gyllenhaal, who are in like an upper echelon of actors. I think they're better actors than Donald Sutherland. But Donald Sutherland's iconic. Absolutely is. No disrespect to my fellow good Canadian brother, but I would take those guys over him. Mason Barr writes, watching Californication started season 2 and I love it. You know what? Californication starts to fall off later, but not till like after season 4 or something. You're good for a while. I was late to the Californication party, and I started binge watching season 1, maybe when it was in season 4. Went back and started watching season 1. I really liked that show. I thought Californication was great. It was funny, irreverent. It was sexy. It was David Duchovny. I by far like David Duchovny more in that than I liked him in X-Files. And I liked him in X-Files, but he is so good in Californication. If you have not checked out Californication, it's R-rated, so just know what you're getting into there. But it's so funny. Him, his best friend, Wrinkle, I think the name is the best friend. The constant on-again, off-again romance with his wife, ex-wife, whatever. The relationship with his daughter is great. His best friend's wife. I mean, it's just, and the storylines they come up with are so fun, and it's just an enjoyable thing to watch. And like I said, it starts to fall off. It does. Once you get into season 4 and a little bit past, it starts to fall off. But the first 3 seasons, I just ate up the first 3 seasons like crazy. So, hey, you know what you should do, Mason? Jump on the Stardust app and give it a recommendation. That would be great. Make sure you tag me when you do. All right. Hugh Dewsbury writes, thoughts on It Comes at Night. To me, it was actually kind of forgettable. I had a couple of friends who quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a better concept than it was a movie, to be honest with you. I watched it. I walked out and a bunch of just went, okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. Not bad. Not terrible. I wouldn't say, if somebody told me I'm going to go see It Comes at Night, I wouldn't say, ooh, don't do that. But also I wouldn't, if somebody said, hey, what should I watch tonight? I'm not going to recommend It Comes at Night. Andres Samanigo Shavira writes, previously, Feige said the first minutes of Infinity War would be devastating. I think the first minutes will show Thanos taking the Soul Stone from somewhere else in the universe. A vicious manner. That's not a bad theory, Andreas. That's not a bad theory, or Andres. That's not a bad theory at all. My theory, which is not unique to me, a lot of people have this same theory, is that it's going to start with maybe Thanos killing half of the Asgardian race. Because we see at the end of Thor Ragnarok, Thor's ship, or Thanos' ship, intercept Thor's ship with all of Asgard on it. I think I'm just guessing. I'm not basing this on anything. I'm just taking wild guesses here. I think Tom Hiddleston dies. I think Loki dies in that scene. I think Thor gets his ass handed to him in that scene. I think a whole bunch of the Asgardian race dies. I don't think they all die, but I think a whole bunch of the Asgardian race dies. And he's going to get the stone that Loki took from Odin's chamber, from Odin's vault, I mean. So that's where I think it's going to start. But you could be right. I mean, it could be him attacking Xandar and getting the Infinity Stone that's there. I mean, that could be what he does at the same time. So could be a lot of different things. I like your theory. I like the other theories too. We're only about 7 weeks away from finding out what is the actual opening to the film. But yeah, it's probably going to show us Thanos and his little band of Dark Knights running around, his little Batman army running around wreaking destruction on somebody somewhere. We'll just have to see what that is. All right, we get on now to the next question. And this one comes to us from Dante Redgrave, who writes, I love Star Wars, but is it bad that have no excitement for Solo? They could have cloned a young Ford and I still wouldn't be excited. It just doesn't interest me. No, nothing wrong with that at all. Look, you know how big of a star. I mean, just look behind me. Look at all the stuff I have behind me here, okay? I am clearly a very big Star Wars fan. My excitement level, hey, I'm looking forward to it. But that's as far as I can go. I'm not going to pretend I'm super excited for it. I'm not. I still don't think this is a movie they should have done, but they've done it. And look, I love the casting. I think Alden Ehrenreich is a terrific actor. I think Ron Howard is one of the finest directors of our generation. Not top 2 or 3 or anything like that, but he's in that upper part of some of the finest directors of our generation. So I got some faith in it. What has surprised me, and you've heard me talk about this on the show before, what has shocked me is how much pop the Solo trailer gets. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Is how much pop the Solo trailer gets when it comes on and the trailer plays before Black Panther. That has totally shocked me completely. It's so because that happens. I've been in the theater with Black Panther, a big movie trailer plays. You hear some people happy about it. And then another big trailer plays. Yeah. And then the Solo trailer plays and the theater loses its mind. And I'm looking around, it's like, really? Really? And it's just, so I don't get it, but no, it's not bad. I'm a major Star Wars fan too, and I'm not jumping up and down in my chair all excited about it, but we'll just have to see how that goes. Okay, let's move on. Jeff Mullins writes, would you ever do a tech-based show? Man, I've thought about it. I've seriously thought about it because I am a major. Let me see if I can do this here. I didn't set up to do this, but let me see if I can get it to work right here. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna switch cameras for a second here. If you look around my place, I don't know if I have enough thing here, but if you look down at my desk, I have got monitors everywhere. All types of stuff. I am basically a major gear and tech guy. I love my gear. I love my tech. One of my favorite shows in the world, online-wise, I should say, is Leo Laporte's Twit Network. I've watched Twit, and I watch All About Android, and I used to love his tech review show. They stopped that one for whatever reason. But I love tech. And I actually listen to more tech podcasts and gadget podcasts than I do even movie podcasts. And I've thought about it. I really, really have. But here's the thing. I couldn't do it on this YouTube channel because people who subscribe to this YouTube channel are subscribed for the movies and entertainment stuff. They don't subscribe. That's why I don't do a UFC thing on this channel, because that's not what people have subscribed to this channel for. So it would require me to create an entirely new YouTube channel, and I just don't have the time to do that at this point. But believe me, it is something I have considered. And maybe if I get lucky enough that I can grow more and add 2 or 3 more staff people, that maybe I can then carve out time that I could do something like that. But, it would take a while for me to be able to make that happen. Okay. Out of Time, Back to the Future fan. I love that name. That's great. If you had to pick between Ready Player One, Incredibles 2, and Wreck-It Ralph 2, which one would you pick? Also, love the show. Keep doing a great job. Thank you so much. That one's an easy one for me. I'm looking forward to all those movies very, very much, but it's Incredibles 2 by a mile. By a mile, it's Incredibles 2. I've been waiting for that movie for what feels like 15 years. I mean, so yes, I am very excited for Ready Player One. I'm very stoked for Wreck-It Ralph 2. But we have been waiting for this Incredibles movie a long time. So I'm looking forward to all those. Those are 3 great films that you mentioned at a time. But to me, it's no question. To me, it's Incredibles 2. I'm just curious, what do the rest of you guys think? If you had to only choose one of those 3 films you got to see, you can only see Ready Player One, you can only see Incredibles 2, or you can only see Wreck-It Ralph 2. Which is the movie that you choose to pick? For me, it's a no-brainer. It's Incredibles 2. But let me know what you guys would pick, because that's a really good question to ask. Let's see. Micah T writes, I hear you about the whole Iron Spider thing, but don't you think if there was any opportunity to use that suit, it would be in Infinity War? Use you the man. Well, here's the question then, okay? This is what comes up with me. You guys have heard me complain about this Iron Spider thing a lot. Here's my question. So Spider-Man can lift a truck over his head. He has super speed. I mean, not Flash super speed, but he's got superhuman reflexes and speed, superhuman strength, superhuman agility, superhuman senses. He's got all of that. Oh, but that's not cool enough. Nope, that's not cool enough. He needs an Iron Man Jr. suit. Okay. Well, if you're saying, well, he'd really need it if Thanos is coming, what about Black Widow? Black Widow has human strength, human agility. Hey, top notch of human agility and speed, yes, but still just plain old human. If Tony Stark was going to build anybody a super suit, wouldn't it be Hawkeye? Wouldn't it be Banner for when he's not Hulk? Wouldn't it be for Black Widow? Who is more exposed than Spider-Man would be. I mean, even without any armor, any tech, any toys, Spider-Man can go toe-to-toe. He'll lose, but he can go toe-to-toe with Captain America. He'll lose in a fight with Captain America, which he did, but still. You know, if anybody's going to have that, so if you're going to use the argument, but hey, wouldn't you need one in a fight against Thanos? Well, then why isn't he making those suits? Why is he making that suit for the already incredibly superhuman-powered machine that is Spider-Man? And not these other just regular human characters who don't even have body armor. I mean, so I don't know. So to me, I totally see where you're coming from that with that, Micah. I totally do. And I've had other people mention it to me as well. But to me, it's a non sequitur because like he's already superhuman powered. And you got other people who aren't on your team. Why is he getting this tech? Anyway, that's just my thought. That's just the way I'm thinking about it. But it's a very valid point you raise. Chris Warden writes, have you seen LA Story? Oh, absolutely I have. In my opinion, it's an underrated Steve Martin classic from the early 90s that doesn't get the recognition it deserves. I don't know. I think when I hear people talk about LA, look, I don't think LA Story is like one of the all-time great movies. I think it's good and I enjoy it. But normally when it comes up in the circles that I'm in, people generally seem to like it and appreciate it for what it is. I don't know if it's terribly underrated. Maybe it's a little underappreciated in the sense that not a lot of people, especially today, not a lot of people have seen it. And it is probably one of those films that maybe more people should check out and give it a look. So here's an idea, Chris. Plug. Why don't you download the Stardust app from the link below and do a recommendation of LA Story? Isn't that a great way to use Stardust? Anyway, so there's an idea for that. Let's see. Next up, Mike Tuckerman writes, new Patreon supporter. Oh, thank you so much for becoming a Patreon supporter, Mike. I really appreciate that. Really enjoy your content. What are your favorite hockey-themed movies? As a child of the 80s, I have a soft spot for the Cheese Fest Youngblood. Oh my God, I forgot all about Youngblood. Yeah, I remember that. Rob Lowe was in that one, right? Like, just let me just make sure about that. But I think that's the Rob Lowe film, if it's the one I'm thinking of. Youngblood. Yeah, it's Rob Lowe and Cynthia Gibb. It is the one I'm thinking about. That one, that's cool. But a couple other ones easily. It's funny because earlier today I did a video where somebody's asking me about my favorite sports comedies, and I've mentioned the same two films that I will mention right now as my favorite hockey theme movies. One would be, why am I drawing a blank? Oh, Mystery Alaska. Mystery Alaska is probably my favorite hockey-themed movie with Russell Crowe. That movie is genius. I love that movie. It's emotional, it's warm, it's fun, it's got all of those things in it. And a terrific cameo by Mike Myers, by the way. So there's Mystery Alaska is my number one favorite hockey movie. The next one after that would be Slapstick. It's the Paul Newman total classic. Also one of the funniest movies ever. So risque, so not PC, not a movie you could make today and get away with it, but it's a very, very funny film. And yeah, so what's another really good, then obviously there's Miracle is a really good hockey-based movie. Then you got, if you want to go into the younger skew, a little bit younger, you got your Mighty Ducks films and things like that. But it still surprises me to this day, Mike, how many people have not watched Mystery Alaska. It's so good. Guy, trust me, if you got any time this weekend that you and your significant other are just planning on hanging out, having some pizza and watching something on TV or watching a movie, seriously, do yourself a favor. It's a good date movie too. Watch Mystery Alaska. Like I said, it's warm, it's got heart, and it's funny, and it's all of that. And I would definitely highly recommend it. It's my favorite hockey movie of all time. Thanks a lot for asking the question, Mike. All right, next one up. We've got Charlie Zakari. There we go. Charlie Zakari writes, I failed as a person. I liked Frozen on Broadway. Why not? From what I'm hearing, a lot of people like Frozen on Broadway. I don't see why you wouldn't. I like Frozen the movie. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I know it's cool to hate on it. Frozen was a good movie. It's a really good little Disney animated film. I like it a lot. Not one of the greatest animated films ever made by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly one of the most successful. But I really like Frozen. I do. I don't know how many times, even before the movie came out, and I know everybody's sick of the song now. I understand that. But before the movie came out, the most brilliant marketing thing they did with Frozen was when they released that scene from the movie where, I don't know, what's the name of the ice woman? Is it Elsa? Anyway, I can't remember the name of the two sisters. I think one of them's called Elsa. But when she sings Let It Go. And remember, they released that entire music number online before the movie came out. That was genius. Releasing that clip of that song was the reason that movie cracked $1 billion. Because I wasn't even looking forward to that movie, and they released that, and I swear to God, I probably watched that music video like 20 times straight. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And I had to watch it like 20 times before that movie even came out. That was like one of the most brilliant marketing moves. Whoever at Disney had the idea and dared suggest, you know what, guys, let's release this entire scene. That's one of the biggest numbers in the movie. You can't release that online. Trust me, release it. People will love it and will crack $1 billion. Oh, fine, try it. Whoever had that idea, give them a promotion because it paid off in spades. All right, let's move on now to Millennials Supershow, who writes, what happened with WB doing Vertigo comic films at New Line? They talked about this a year ago and haven't said anything since. Well, look, that's just the thing though, right? Like, whenever something gets kind of announced that, oh, this property's picked up, everybody jumps up and down and goes, oh, that means we're going to get the movie in like a year. And remember, more times than not, when a studio options something or buys the rights to something, a lot of times it never actually turns into anything. Like about 1 out of every 100 films that gets conceptualized actually gets in front of a camera and starts shooting. So, hey, they got it. They probably got some writers. I don't know any of this. I'm just speculating here. They probably got some writers to take a few passes on it. They never came up with something that WB thought they could make work, and it's just still sitting on a shelf. Or it could be in huge active development, but it's probably just sitting on a shelf right now. So, just because they got it, just because they were looking at developing it, doesn't mean it was going to make it past that stage. And I think that's something that a lot of film fans still need to adjust their heads to, that just because we hear something gets optioned or something gets picked up, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to turn into a movie. It means the studio hopes they can turn it into a movie, but a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. Now, I don't have any insider information that that's the state that this whole thing with Vertigo is at. I don't, but that's just kind of where I'm guessing things are at right now. Let's keep our eyes open and see what it turns into. All right. Sebastian Lerda writes, "Hey, John, love the show." Thank you so much, Sebastian. Joaquin Phoenix, 3 Oscar nominations, no wins. Ethan Hawke, 4 Oscar nominations, no wins. Yeah, look, that is one of the reasons why I value the Oscars so much. It is one of the most impossible things you can possibly win. Because you can be a guy as great as Joaquin Phoenix, but if somebody else just happens to be a little bit better that year, doesn't matter how good of an actor you are, you don't get the Oscar. You can be the greatest actor in the world, but if one particular year somebody just turns in the best performance of their life and they happen to just be a little bit better than you that one year, then you can end up with no Oscar. And so you're looking at guys like Ethan Hawke, Jake Gyllenhaal, Ed Harris, Ralph Fiennes, Joaquin Phoenix. You got this big, long list of these super talented dudes who could never pull it off. And that's no slam on them. It is just one of the most impossible things to accomplish, is actually winning an Oscar. It's nigh impossible. So yeah, I mean, it is really weird when you bring up stats like that, Sebastian, right? It's like you think Joaquin Phoenix, 3 nominations, 0 for 3. Ethan Hawke, 4 nominations, 0 for 4. Now, of course, remember, every year they nominate 5 and only 1 out of the 5 wins. So you're going to get a whole lot more people out there with nominations and no wins. So that's standard. So that's no shade on Joaquin Phoenix or Ethan Hawke, or Handsome Hawk, as we like to call him. But yeah, man, that's why winning that Oscar is so damn special. Okay, let's move on here. The next one comes to us from Matthew Leach. And Matthew Leach writes, what does Matthew Leach write? There he goes. Matthew Leach writes, "Should Disney remake their Robin Hood film with stop motion animation like Kubo and the Isle of Dogs through VFX like Jungle Book?" Oh, I don't think so. I would, no, I'm not interested in that. I wouldn't mind a Robin Hood remake, but I would want it CG. I would just want a really good, clean, modern CG movie for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not looking down at the style used for Kubo was great for Kubo. I don't know about Isle of Dogs because I haven't watched Isle of Dogs. To be honest with you, the style doesn't seem to be working for me with the Isle of Dogs trailer. I almost kind of wish that movie was done in a more traditional style, like a more modern CGI style than that, because it doesn't seem to be working for me in the trailers. But something like Kubo certainly worked on that style. I don't think Robin Hood would work as well in that style. I don't think that's the right style for it. Just my opinion, just the way I'm thinking about it, but you never know. Hey guys, listen. Just let me take a quick little break here so I don't have to mention this later. But do me a favor, if you are somebody who enjoys watching my videos, do me a favor and head on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. While you're there, you'll get all the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter of mine, how being a Patreon supporter keeps this show on the air, and what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter. And once you look at that stuff, maybe you'll decide to be a Patreon supporter too, and if you do, that's awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. I'm just happy you're here being a film fan with us. All right, with that out of the way, let's keep going with the questions. And we move on now to Pensive Ruin, who writes, "YouTube reviews on movies have taught me that there is no substitute for going out and seeing the movies for yourself and making up your own mind." Well, I mean, here's the thing, Pensive. That sounds nice. It sounds nice to say. You know, I've often seen a lot of conversations going on in different chat boards, and you know, people going like, "Hey, this movie's terrible. All the reviews are terrible," and people say who think they sound smart, going, "Well, who cares? You should just go out and see it for yourself and decide." Okay, but by that logic, that means you need to spend all your money and go see every movie that comes out. That's essentially what you're saying. But if you want to be a regular person who doesn't spend all your money on going to the movies, and you got to pick and choose which movies you go to. See, here's the thing. I always bring it back to this. You would never buy a car without reading reviews. Hell, this is a true story. Where'd the damn thing go? It's right here, okay? So I recently bought, well, I can't lift it up. The USB cord is too short, so I can't lift it up high enough for you to see it. Can you barely see it here? I've got this thing here. I can't get into picture. I've got this little thing here called the Stream Deck. It's just a little USB key device that I use that lets me program hotkeys into this little USB device, so I can just, instead of hitting Control Shift Function 1, I can program a button on this USB device. This is if I hit this button, execute Control Shift Function 1, right? Instead of hitting, Alt Shift N for one command, I can just tell this one button on my USB device, if I hit this button, pretend the keyboard just hit Alt Shift N. You know what I mean? It's a little USB controller. It was like $100, right? Makes my life a lot easier doing these shows, by the way. I just got this thing about 2 weeks ago. It's about $100. I swear I spent 3 weeks researching. Like, I don't buy a thing. Even when I was buying, like I bought my new Note 8 phone, right? But it takes a USB-C charger, which is different from the micro USB cords. So I had to buy some new cables. Cables that cost like $12. I swear I spent like 5 days reading reviews on every brand of cable, which cable works best, blah, 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 blah. I spent like weeks researching USB controllers. Even though some of them are like just $50 or $100 at most, I spent weeks researching that. Because if I'm going to spend my money, I want to make sure, because I'm a cheap son of a bitch. If I'm going to spend my money, I want to make damn sure I'm spending it wisely. And that I'm increasing my chances of making sure I'm getting the maximum benefit of what money I'm spending. You would never, buy a $2,000 laptop without reading reviews on it, making sure that nobody's reporting any problems with it, blah, blah, blah. I believe going to the movies is an investment. And I believe if you want to be a wise moviegoer, you should look at reviews to make sure you're spending your money wisely. Now, at the same time, if you're dying, let's say for Solo, right? Let's say you're dying to see the Solo movie. Well, then you should go to see it regardless. If it's something you've been dying to see, you should go regardless. But for most movies, like, hey, I might be interested in that one. Like some of you might have been interested. I hope I saved a lot of you guys some money on wasting your money on going to see Death Wish. Because maybe some of you were like me, were thinking, oh yeah, well, mate, that could be interesting. I might go see that. Hopefully there were some of you that felt that way and then you saw me review it and you saved your 20, 30, 40, $50, depending on how much you would have had to pay for you and your date. I believe it's just part of being a smart consumer, checking movie reviews. Don't base 100% of your decision on those reviews, but take those reviews into consideration because it can make you a smarter moviegoer. So that's my recommendation of that anyway. Let's see. Darryl Best Wadley writes, what did you think of The Flash and Black Lightning this week? Really liked The Flash this week. Pretty much, I'm liking any Flash episode that has nothing to do with DeVoe. This is the worst villain they've had on the show ever. But at any rate, so it had nothing to do with DeVoe. And it was just, for those of you to know, there's a nuclear bomb going off, right? And they were too late to stop it before. So it's just at that split microsecond when the bomb's going off. And the Flash and Jesse Quick and the Jay Garrick Flash are all like moving at supersonic speed and they can talk to each other because their bodies are moving so fast. So it's almost like time is moving extremely slow. And it's them trying to figure out a way to save the city from blowing up in this nuclear destruction. And it's a wonderful episode. Really good episode. Although it does make me, it's not really consistent either. Because, for the Flash to run across town, like 2 seconds and he's across town. But that's 2 seconds. This whole episode happens within a fraction of a second as a nuclear bomb is exploding. So it all happens within a fraction of a second. And yet the Flash runs to downtown, back to Star Labs, back to downtown, has these conversations with everybody, blah, 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 blah. And it all happens within 0.2 of a second. He's never been that fast in the show. And if he was that fast, that he could run like across the country before somebody finishes the blink of an eye, then there's no villain that he couldn't stop just like that. We've already seen DeVoe thwart him because DeVoe is able to hit a button and put up a shield. It's like, wait a minute, if the Flash was that fast, he could basically stop time as soon as DeVoe starts doing this and get him, handcuff him, take him to jail, have dinner, whack off 3 or 4 times to some internet porn, and still be done before DeVoe's finger ever would have hit that button. So I loved the episode. I thought it was a great episode, but it does highlight to me some of the inconsistencies they use in the show with just how fast is he in the show. Sometimes he's just a super fast being. Other times it's like he transcends warp dimensional space. So they got to get a little bit more consistent with that. Black Panther, forget about it. Black Panther was a terrific episode this week. I am loving this thing. And the thing with Tobias's sister and all that kind of stuff, top notch. I really, really like the episode this week. Hans Wormhat. Oops, lost it. Where's Hans? Wow, a lot of questions have come in. Holy shit, a lot of questions have come in. Okay, here we go. Hans Wormat writes, Life of Pi versus Wrinkle in Time, both unfilmable. I see, that's the thing. I've heard people say that about Life of Pi. I have never thought that about Life of Pi at all. To me, it's a rather straightforward movie to shoot. I mean, difficult from visual effects point of view, but from a narrative layout point of view, I never thought it was all that difficult of a thing to shoot, especially when you watch it. Wrinkle in Time, though, the concepts that they use and all these sci-fi elements interwoven with how they're telling the story makes it a very difficult thing to shoot. Like, how do you tell that in 2 hours in a coherent way? Unfortunately for me, it didn't execute well. It just didn't execute well. It was a beautifully conceived movie that just didn't execute, and I can't recommend it. But I gotta admit, Hans, that I've never thought Life of Pi was anywhere near unfilmable. A tough visual effects challenge, yes, but that's not what people are talking about when they say unfilmable. When people say that a certain story is unfilmable, they're not talking about how hard would the visual effects be. It's about how can you capture all the concepts and everything that's actually going on in this particular story and tell it in a 2-hour movie. That's what people are referring to when they say something is unfilmable. And that's what they mean when they say Wrinkle in Time is basically unfilmable, not because of the visual effects, but because of all the concepts in it and how it's supposed to lay out. To do it in a 2-hour movie seemed like it was folly because it really didn't work, despite the fact that they had a really gifted director working on it with them. Let's see. Geeky Reviews writes, thoughts on this week's episode of The Flash? Oh, you got in there a little bit late, Geeky. You got in just a little bit late, as I already just answered that question. Maybe I can speed force through time and answer it again. But thanks a lot for asking. Sloth Gaming writes, hey, John, been following since the AMC days. I saw Flash Gordon a while ago. It was really bad, but that got me thinking. You think it's time to remake that movie, but with a better everything? Hey, look, there's been lots of chatter over the past couple of years about studios looking to maybe doing a Flash Gordon again. As a matter of fact, let me take a second here and just look this up. Let me see what I've got here. Back in late 2007, there was a movie there was a new Flash Gordon that was being kind of developed. And then when they saw this is how the story goes at any rate, when they saw what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy, it kind of just made them go, oh, well, what we were kind of thinking is too much like that, and that's doing it way better than we would have, and they pulled the plug. Now, I don't know how true that is, but those are the stories that went around. There was actually Guardians of the Galaxy that put a halt to the Flash Gordon development. I have very little doubt that somehow, some way, someday, we will get another Flash Gordon movie. I have very little doubt about that. But when it could happen, not really sure. And I love the way you put that, Sloth Gaming. You said, do a remake of it, but, with better everything. And yes, with better everything, it could be kind of epic, but I just don't know when we're going to see it at this point. Luis Francisco writes, Days Gone video game, Sam Witwer is on it. So if I'm understanding you right, Luis, you're saying Days Gone there's a video game named Days Gone that Witwer's in. If so, I'm unfamiliar with it. I've never heard of it. So I can't really comment on it, but I mean, I'm always interested in anything Sam Witwer does. Sam Witwer is a super, super talented dude. Let's see. David Reese writes, what do you think of the new Star Wars series being an anthology series? It could be a way to explore many stories through the Star Wars time. If you're talking about the one with Jon Favreau, no chance. Somebody asked me before about the idea of a Star Wars TV series being an anthology series, like Black Mirror or Twilight Zone or something like that. And here's the problem with that. the amount of work that it would take to go into that, and the budget for any Star Wars film is obviously going to already be super high. It would become exponentially even more expensive if every single week was a mini movie in and of itself, because you got to get all new casting, all new sets, all new everything, all new, CG designs, all new, like every single week you're telling a brand new story in a super high sci-fi environment like Star Wars. Financially, that just doesn't make sense. Not to mention with Star Wars, we are wanting, as most Star Wars fan, I think it's safe to say this, most Star Wars fans want to follow a story. And you introduce us to new characters, new heroes, new villains that we love, and then we can follow along with them. And you don't have to recast every single week with every single time. You don't have to make 12 mini movies a year or 8 mini movies a year, whatever. Tell your story. I think that's what will get an audience hooked more than an anthology thing. Yes, something like Black Mirror has worked, but that is not an expensive show to make. For the most part, some episodes have been higher brow than others, but for the most part, it's a pretty inexpensive show to shoot. With Star Wars, I just don't think it would work. I just don't think it would work. Anything's possible. Totally anything's possible. But for me, it just wouldn't interest me, and I don't think for the vast majority of Star Wars fans it would either. And I could be wrong about that. Adele Hassan writes, "Hey John, no doubt Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor. He certainly is a great actor. But I think he really fails as Sherlock Holmes. His portrayal is too clownish. Your opinion?" You know what? Oddly enough, I'm going to disagree with you. I actually quite enjoyed his incarnation of Sherlock Holmes. They made no apology about it, that it was a very different Sherlock Holmes that they were going for. But they just wanted to capture the essence of the overly brilliant mind. And they thought, how can we look differently at this overly brilliant mind that is still an overly brilliant mind, just expressed in a different way than what the traditional Sherlock Holmes stuff has been? And I always like kind of new looks at things. I like them looking at things a little bit differently. And I got to admit, and especially the chemistry that him and Jude Law had together as Holmes and Watson. Look, I know other people that it didn't work for sure. So you, Adil, are not alone. You are not alone in your thoughts on that at all. But I got to admit, for me, it kind of worked. Now, I didn't think, Sherlock Holmes 2 was all that great, unfortunately. But I still really did like the incarnation of Holmes that Robert Downey Jr. gave us. I got to admit that I did. But again, I've heard other people say it didn't work for them, so you are not alone. Viper91 writes, "You think we'll see Captain Marvel in Infinity War, or do you think she will only be in a post-credit scene, if at all?" If I had to set an over-under number to the possibility of us seeing Brie Larson as Captain Marvel in Infinity War, I would set the number at 33% would be the over-under number for me. So possible. I don't think likely, but definitely possible. So I would set the over-under at 30. Let me ask you guys that. I'm setting the over-under at 33%. Do you think it's over? The chances are higher than that she'll actually show up in Infinity War? Or would you take the under on that? Jump into the comments section and let me know what you think. All right, next one comes to us from Luna Comics, who writes, "Which movie makes you the most hungry?" Mine is Chef. You know what? I think somebody asked me this exact same question a while ago. I'm going to go Ratatouille. Ratatouille really makes me hungry. Ratatouille, and also Return to Me, the David Duchovny Minnie Driver romantic comedy, because there's a number of scenes that take place in this great restaurant that the family owns, and it's like Italian food, and it makes my mouth waters just thinking about it. So, but I would go Ratatouille and Return to Me. Geo writes, "Thoughts on American Hustle and Black Swan 914. I liked American Hustle, but I didn't like it nearly as much as most critics did. I didn't think it should have been nominated for Best Picture, but it was good. It's a good movie. I thought it was a little overrated, to be honest with you. Black Swan, I just think is genius. Love that movie. Of course, it got Natalie Portman her Academy Award. It's a beautiful movie. The breathtaking, it's haunting, it's sensual. It's so much good stuff is in that movie. I prefer Black Swan over American Hustle, to be honest with you. Derek Large writes, "What special feature gets you excited on DVD or Blu-ray? I love audio commentaries and I'm more likely to buy a movie if it has ones." Well, yeah, audio commentaries for sure. I love audio commentaries. And that is the next step in evolution for streaming movies, is making sure streaming movies get a way to easily include director commentary if I want to watch director commentary, because that's great. But I also love just like behind the scenes, like half-hour mini documentaries on how we did this one scene. You know, I've said this before, the greatest behind the scenes features ever are on the Lord of the Rings sets and the Star Wars prequels. Even though I don't like the movies, the special features on the DVDs of the Star Wars prequels are fantastic. Fantastic. If you are all even remotely interested in the art of filmmaking, it is just a gotta watch thing. It's just an absolute gotta watch thing. Okay, just got time for a couple more here. And we are going to go back to Sloth Gaming. And Sloth Gaming writes, with Star Wars, a lot of people are calling for Old Republic. Yeah, I'm one of them. I know they touched on it in Rebels and books, but do you think it's time to put Old Republic on screen? Well, here's the advantage of doing something like Old Republic. It's not because all the lore of Old Republic is so great, although there is great lore in Old Republic. But Old Republic offers storytellers an opportunity to do a Star Wars movie, but it's so far in the past that you can do anything in those movies or in those shows and have it not affect anything in the current incarnation of Star Wars, because it happened so many thousands of years ago. You can kill entire casts of characters and it doesn't matter. It won't affect our perception of canon when it comes to the current incarnations of Star Wars. Old Republic represents an opportunity for storytellers to play in the Star Wars universe, but tell any story they want without any concerns of continuity, because it's so far removed time-wise from the current incarnations. That is one of the reasons why I love the idea of Old Republic. Plus, it gives you a lot more opportunity to delve into Jedi and Sith and all that kind of stuff that modern incarnations don't really allow us to do. So for that reasons and several others is the reason why I really want Old Republic. Not because of any one particular storyline that exists in Star Wars Legends about Old Republic, but rather, once again, it offers an open door and opportunity for storytellers to play in the Star Wars sandbox completely without their hands tied. And I love that notion. So I'd totally be down for that. Okay, next question comes to us from Chris Martin. And Chris Martin writes, favorite early Disney animated feature? I know you said you liked Pinocchio. Any others? Oh, early Disney feature. Well, I mean, you gotta love Dumbo. Obviously, there's Pinocchio, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast. You know, I'm gonna go. Well, Beauty and the Beast would be, I guess, even though it's like in the '80s, it's a more modern one. I will probably go Snow White. Yeah, I'll go Snow White. Snow White will be probably my favorite of the early incarnations of those animated things. I prefer the more golden age ones like Aladdin, Lion King, movies like that, Beauty and the Beast. That's my favorite era of Disney animated films. But in those older ones, I'll go Snow White. Mr. J writes, do you ever watch Westworld TV show / movie? I didn't know there was a Westworld movie. I did watch season 1 of Westworld. I'm not thrilled with it. I think it's okay. There are certainly episodes in Westworld that were stupid good. Like just flat out stupid good. Some episodes. But I also found overall the season was arduous. It was incredibly slow. A lot of episodes I thought I just could have thrown away. So I'm not thrilled with Westworld. I liked it, I guess. Enough that I'm going to check out season 2. But the season finale was fantastic. I mean, the season finale of Westworld was fantastic. But if somebody were to ask me, is it worth watching like the first 7 episodes just so I can get to that finale? I don't know. It's a great finale, but was it good enough to invest 7 hours into getting to it? I don't know. Right now, I've got people who love Westworld screaming at their computer monitors at me. I get it. I'm a little bit in the minority on that, so I understand. All right, Ben Rayner writes, Iron Spider in Avengers and Spider-Man in his own films? No, Spider-Man is cool enough on his own. Spider-Man is cool enough on his own, and he's powerful enough on his own. He doesn't need to be Iron Man Jr. That's just my thoughts on it, Ben. Jordan Benjamin writes, you have one choice, an origin of the Force in the Criminal Underworld, or the Criminal Underworld standalone Star Wars movie. What would be your very brief pitch? Well, I mean, I'm not going to give you a brief pitch. I would have to sit down and think about it for a while. But if I could only choose one of the origin of the Force or the Criminal Underworld, I'm going Criminal Underworld. I've actually answered this before. Somebody asked, would I rather see a story about the first Jedi or a little bit later after the Jedi Order and the Sith have already been organized? I would rather see one about the Sith and the Jedi already organized. Don't get me wrong, I'd be interested in an origin of the Jedi and stuff like that, sure. But I'd be more interested something told like 300 years later when you've got the Jedi Order and you've got the Sith Empire and they're already going at it. That's what I'd be more interested in for sure. Rar Nation writes, wondering if you got to my recommendation from a few weeks ago. Blame. Nope. Never got around to it. I've got this. Well, let me finish reading the question. Blame, directed by Quinn Shepard, starring Chris Messina. Want to know your thoughts? No, never got around to it. I've got like a list of about 40 things that I need to get around to, including several television series that I need to get around and binge watch. I still got people screaming at me about BoJack Horseman and about Altered Carbon and about, a whole ton of different things. So no, I've been just far too busy with new movies and doing stuff. So haven't gotten around to it yet. It's on the list, but I've not gotten around to it. Nathan Oswald writes, is there any justification for 2D tickets being $18? My hometown Regal Theater has motorized reclining seats, and their 2D tickets average around $8. Look, it's all supply and demand, right? If you have a movie theater that's almost always empty, then you got to lower the price. If you're like in New York City or in Los Angeles, like where I live by the second busiest movie theater in America, which is the AMC Burbank 16. The busiest movie theater in America is the AMC Times Square in New York City. It's supply and demand. So the prices go up in those markets. So it is what it is. I wish that the movie theaters that I live beside had, Mississippi theater pricing. I was in Massachusetts. I was over in Boston recently in January, and we went to a movie theater there, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I bought tickets for like $10. What? It's not $16. It's only $10. What? Are you kidding me? And I almost wanted to throw a party. It was great. So it's about supply and demand. It's about supply and demand. So I guess that's what justifies it. It's too bad though. Luna Comics writes, I only got a couple of minutes here, guys, left. And remember, any questions that I do not get around to, do not worry. I will answer them probably over the weekend in a supplemental video. So don't worry if I don't get around to it. Luna Comics writes, in honor of subjectivity of film, what superhero movie do you like but others hate? Mine is Green Lantern and Spider-Man 3. That I like that others hate? Well, I guess Man of Steel. A lot of people seem to not like Man of Steel, which just confounds me. Because that movie to me is a top 10 superhero movie of all time, is Man of Steel. I think the movie is a masterpiece of the genre. I think it's just an incredible film. And the more I watch it, the more I appreciate it so very, very much. I love Man of Steel. So that's the one that stands out to me. Sujith writes, in the minority, don't like Iron Man in the MCU and the comics. Couldn't enjoy Spider-Man Homecoming because I'm tired of seeing Iron Man in the MCU. Hey, look, all film's subjective, man. I don't like Martian Manhunter. I keep saying I'm not interested in Martian Manhunter. Nothing wrong. If Iron Man doesn't work for you, then Iron Man doesn't work for you. Nothing you need to be ashamed of there, man. Annie Chatter writes, what do you think of Shrek joining the MCU? No, this is a ridiculous notion. Shrek in the MCU. Very funny. Chris Martin writes, have you seen the Outsiders movie based on the book by S.E. Hinton? I'm only familiar with one Outsiders movie. Hold on a second. Let me just see what it is you could be talking about. Yeah, the only Outsiders movie is the one, of course, with Patrick Swayze. And I don't know about the name of the guy who wrote it. Is it by S.A.? Oh, it is the one in the same movie. Okay, yeah. So C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez. That's classic. That's a great movie. I love that movie. I've watched that movie probably 20 or 30 times. I dig that one a lot. Let's see. Sujith writes, I'm all for Cap. I like good heart and heroes. So do I. That's why Cap is my favorite Avenger. Cap is my favorite Avenger in the movie universe. Anthony R. writes, and you notice I'm picking up the pace here, guys. I want to see if I can get through all of these. I'm not sure that I can, but I'll try. Anthony R. writes, how different would the MCU be today if they had the rights to Spider-Man and his was the first movie to launch all... Well, I don't know, Anthony. That's an Elseworlds question. I have no idea. No idea how things would be different. For all we know, it would be exactly the same. We'd be in the exact same place that we are now. For all we know, it would be a little bit different. I mean, I still think Iron Man and Captain America are the heart of your MCU because of the nature of who the Tony Stark character is and who the Captain Rogers character is. So that would probably still be the same. I think we would still have the Thor movie. So it's hard to guess. I'd have to sit down for like 3 hours with charts and try to figure out, well, how would this have unfolded differently if they'd had Spider-Man? So for all I know, would be exactly the same, would be in the exact same place that we are right now. Sebastian writes, loved your answer to my question. I know you asked a question, or I can't remember which one it was. I love your answer to my question, which leads me to my new question. I'm a fan of Leonardo DiCaprio, but does he deserve more than one Oscar? To me, he lost fairly every time. I'm with you. I've actually made videos of that years ago, that it was crazy that Leonardo DiCaprio, an actor with the performances he's turned in, did not have an Oscar yet. And people would say, oh, Leo's been snubbed up till now. But then I made this one video once where I walked through, well, let's look at it. In this year, he was nominated for this film, but he was up against this guy and this guy, and this guy won, and that guy probably deserved to win over Leo that year. Then we looked at the next year where Leo was nominated. And again, there was somebody who I thought deserved to win over Leo and did win over Leo. And then the next year, and that just goes back again to why, man, the Oscars are just such an impossible thing to win. I agree with you. I didn't think Leo DiCaprio deserved an Oscar from any of the years that he was nominated for until the year that he won. He was my pick to win the year that he won. And so I think that's the one he deserved it for, and that's the one that he got. So that's what we have. Chris Martin plays, have you ever played Kingdom Hearts? Never have. I know a lot of my buddies have, but I never have. Anthony R. writes, following up on Chris Martin's question, I have to catch up on some Disney movies since they will be featured in the next Kingdom Hearts game. Well, yeah, man, get caught up on the Disney movies by all means. I mean, it is funny because I've always heard about Kingdom Hearts, but I have never engaged it myself. So maybe it's one of those games. I don't think they have a Kingdom Hearts for the Nintendo Switch yet. We got an Xbox. We don't have a PlayStation. We've got an Xbox One. We've got a Nintendo Switch. I don't think they have a Kingdom Hearts on Nintendo Switch, but if they do come out with one, I'll probably give it a shot. Spencer Smothers writes, and a whole bunch more questions came in. Okay, I'll never be able to finish all of these. So this will be the last question of the day. Last question of the day. A new Infinity War trailer was shown at a Disney shareholders meeting yesterday. So over under 70%, we get the trailer this week. Well, hold a second. Infinity War trailer shareholders. I don't know that that's actually true. I've heard rumors, but I don't know that it's actually fact that that's happened. Okay, so somebody sent out a tweet that said the Disney shareholders just saw a new Infinity War trailer. And it's from a guy with a few less... it says he was with IGN and stuff like that, so maybe it's true. I mean, it's possible. I've heard rumors about it, but I don't know that that's a fact. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying I don't know that it's a fact. I know it's been going around that the Disney shareholders saw it. Well, the Disney shareholders could see things 3 months before something gets released. Look, the reality is this. We are 7 weeks away from the movie coming out, and we've only had one trailer so far. So the answer to any question about when are we getting the next Infinity War trailer is soon. That's going to be the answer. Because tomorrow is soon, 2 weeks from now is soon, but it's got to be soon. Because we are just 7 weeks away. Black Panther's now been in theater for about 4+ weeks. It's time. So it's going to be soon because the movie's coming out soon, so it's got to be soon. So that's kind of my best answer on that. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much, everybody who's been here. And don't forget, guys, if you're one of these people who still has a question sitting there waiting to be answered, it will get answered either on the next episode of Open Mic, which will be on Monday, or maybe I'll put together a supplemental video over the weekend. But your question will get answered, I promise. Of course, guys, make sure you're following me on Twitter, simply at John Campea. I do a lot of tweeting there, of course. Guys, once again, check out the new sponsor of the show, Stardust. Just go onto your app store, download Stardust. Make sure I'm the first person you follow on Stardust. You can follow me just at John Campea. And then once you add me, start making your own little reviews and your own reactions. And once you make them, just tap on your screen and tag at John Campea on there. And then maybe next week you will see one of your reactions pop up on the John Campea show, because I'm going to start pulling in some reaction videos from you guys to use on the show. And I'm really excited about that. I'm looking forward to that. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.